Welcome to the Digital Learning Competencies for School Administrators and Classroom Teachers webinar. My name is Deborah Goodman. I'm lead consultant for the Division of Digital Teaching and Learning at North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And on the webinar with me today is Kathy Matthews. She is the Southwest Digital Teaching and Learning Consultant, and Cynthia Sartain, who is the North Central Digital Teaching and Learning Consultant. So thank you for joining us today. We had a high number of registrations, and so therefore we had to move from the GoToMeeting format that I originally set up to the GoToWebinar format so that we could accommodate more folks. We do want the webinar to be very informal, so I'm kind of driving the slide deck. Cynthia and Kathy will be monitoring the question bar, but we just want to make sure that everyone is hearing us, so we'll go through some sound checks in a minute to make sure everything is good on your end. But if you have a question, please post it in the question bar and we'll address the questions as we go, as best we can. So we'll go ahead and get started. So if you can hear my voice, raise your hand using the hand icon found on the control panel. All right, sounds like the sound check is pretty good. Thank you for that. Throughout the webinar today, we will be monitoring the questions bar, and if you have a question, please type it in the questions bar. We will try to address all questions during the webinar. So just a few webinar norms, if you kind of read through these. And I think with the way we have this one set up is that we automatically have you muted. But please let us know if you're having technical difficulties by raising your hand. And again, Cynthia and Kathy are monitoring that question bar to assist as necessary. Okay, on this slide, you're going to see some links to the slide deck that we are using today, along with the link to both the school administrator competencies and classroom teacher competencies. You may want to go ahead and open the slide deck so that you have access to the live links as we go through. Some of you may have seen these competencies already. If not, they are linked here for your review. Also note this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you on the IHE wiki. So we'd like to accomplish a few things today in our webinar, providing you with a little background information such as the legislative act that has driven this work thus far, our progress to date, time to review both the draft competencies and to gather some initial thoughts and feedback from you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, who will talk about the legislative act and progress to date. Kathy?
Thank you so much, Deborah. And good afternoon. And as Deborah mentioned, we're going to look at the background information that's driving the creation of the digital learning competencies. You'll see that the first link on this slide will take you to House Bill 23, and the second link will take you to the document where our work is highlighted. Now, House Bill 23 is an act directing the State Board to develop and implement digital teaching and learning standards for teachers and school administrators. Our division, the Division of Digital Teaching and Learning, was tasked by the State Board to develop and implement digital competency standards as part of teacher preparation and licensure by the 2017-18 school year. The bill recognizes that digital learning is, of course, an integral part of all 21st century teaching and works to integrate it into mainstream teacher preparation. Section 2 of the House bill is amended by adding a new subsection that states, "The State Board of Education shall require all students in school administrator preparation programs demonstrate competencies in using digital and other instructional technologies, in supporting teachers and other school personnel to use digital and other instructional technologies to ensure the provision of high-quality, integrated digital teaching and learning to all students. The State Board of Education shall include continuing education in high-quality, integrated digital teaching and learning as a requirement of licensure renewal. Now, Section 3 of the bill states that the State Board of Education shall develop digital teaching and learning competencies to provide a framework for all schools of education, school administrators, and classroom teachers. The digital learning competencies, they were designed to help support educators' understanding of what digital teaching and learning is, how it can look in the classroom, and how the teacher might implement these in their teaching practices. The goal is that they be real, actionable, and provide meaningful guidance for educators. As you can see from the timeline, this work began back in 2013, where we developed a timeline and began the process of drafting the competencies that you'll see today. Throughout this process, as you can see, 2013, 14, and 15, we gathered feedback from various stakeholders. Now in 2016, we are creating professional development and a resource kit in preparation for the implementation in 2017. The competencies were informed by national models already in place, and they move us in the direction of competency-based learning for adults. They're designed with thoughtful input from teachers, administrators, and leaders all across North Carolina. The feedback we received from the various audiences has been positive, and we've revised the DLCs many times based on the feedback that we've received. Educator feedback mainly indicated that the DLCs are attainable by all teachers and that they are reflective of good teaching. Now here you can see the DLCs for classroom teachers, and they include 4 focus areas: the leadership in digital learning, digital citizenship, digital content and instruction, and data and assessment. As you can see, the competencies focus on leadership, pedagogy, resources, and using data to inform instruction. Now, under each of these focus areas, you'll see the competency. Now, what we're not seeing, but it is there unpacked, are the elements that align with the competency. Referring to the DLC for classroom teachers, please take a few minutes to scan those competencies. Keep in mind, this is not an add-on for teachers. As you're scanning, think about how these competencies are reflective of the skills needed in today's classrooms. And I also want you to begin to formulate your initial thoughts and observations.
Can we ask the audience how many of them have actually reviewed these competencies already, maybe by a show of hands? Can you guys give us a show of hands of how many of you have actually reviewed these competencies already?
As you're formulating those thoughts and observations, if you'll use the feedback form that Deborah shared at the beginning, for those of you who downloaded the presentation, there is that slide at the beginning where there is the feedback form. It is also linked on this slide. And please provide your feedback as to your thoughts about those digital learning competencies for teachers. Okay, now I will be turning it over to Cynthia, and she can walk us through what the school administrator competencies look like.
Hello, everyone. Like Kathy said, now let's look at the digital learning competencies for administrators. Unlike the teacher competencies, you'll note that the competencies have 5 focus areas, not 4 like the teachers. And the areas align with a digital learning plan, and they include vision and strategy, content and instruction, human capacity and culture, personal growth and connectedness, and community. And please keep in mind that this is not an add-on for teachers and administrators. Under each focus area, as Kathy said before, you'll find the competency, and then you can find the elements under each of those competencies on the documents that we provided through the PowerPoint that's on Google Forms. So if you refer to the digital learning for school administrators, take a few minutes to scan the competencies. As you're scanning, think about how these competencies are reflective of the skills needed for effective leadership and digital teaching and learning. What are your initial thoughts or observations? Reflecting on your current program, where can you see these competencies being addressed? As before, we provided a feedback form for the administrator competencies. It's on your slide, and we would love for you to go and use this feedback form later and enter the thoughts that you've already had here and give us a good feedback about the competencies. We have the guiding questions listed here so that you might use them as you work with your colleagues. And as I said, the feedback form link is there for you to use. As we mentioned earlier, we have been engaged in conversations with a broad range of educators across the state, which include IHEs, instructional technology facilitators, school library media coordinators, district personnel, higher ed faculty, a cross-section of DPI, and partners such as the Friday Institute. Focus groups were also formed and utilized at the National NC Association of College and Teachers and Administrators at NCSLMA and the directors meeting at NC TIES. We also met with a small cadre of pre-service teachers at North Carolina State University, ECU, Appalachian State, and Western Carolina. And links have been provided so you may review the feedback from these sessions. Our contact information is here for you to use, and we would like for you to remember as you look at and consider the digital learning competencies that this is an unfunded mandate, but it's an important one. As we move forward, we're going to be developing a resource kit that will be utilized in the professional learning opportunities this summer and early fall. we have reached out to higher eds across the state to partner with us on the professional learning sessions this summer, and those will be for teachers, pre-service teachers, administrators, and support staff. The response has been very positive, and we have confirmed dates already. In addition to this, it's also our intent to propose to the state board that there be policy changes to elevate the importance of the digital learning competencies. So again, we have provided our contact information, and we would love for you to reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. Here are the resources. These go out to the standards that have been referred to. And Deborah, I'd like to turn it back over to you for the closure.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. I want to pause a minute to see if there are any questions or comments. And Kathy and Cynthia, if you could kind of let me know if there's any questions in the box or any hands. Okay, and as Cynthia said earlier, as you share these with your colleagues, please return to the feedback forms and add any questions or comments that come up in your conversations, because this will help guide us in the work moving forward. We want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this webinar and for working with us to create opportunities to get in front of pre-service teachers. We look forward to collaborating with you as we roll out the professional learning opportunities this summer for teachers, pre-service teachers, administrators, and support staff. And as you know, we'll be working closely with Joyce Gardner to connect with as many public and private IHEs as possible. So again, like Cynthia said earlier, please reach out to us if you have any convenings you'd like us to attend to discuss the competencies further, and we look forward to hearing from you. Also, just a reminder that we will provide a link to this webinar recording on the IHE Wiki so that you can refer others to or go back as you're talking with your colleagues. And so we'll hang on the line for a couple minutes just to see if you have any questions or comments. Okay, and I see a question in there. It says the links are not operative. Is that when you open the actual document? Are they not opening for you when you open the slide deck? Let me go back to this screen here. And let me see if copying this into the answer bar helps. And again, the slide deck will accompany the recording on the IHE Wiki. And Bethany asked the question, how will DLCs be reflected in NECs at all? Right now, we're not looking at them being in the NECs at this time. I know that this will be some future conversation because the NECs is already in, the evaluation system is already in place, and that takes a process to go through time and reflection. So what we're going to be looking at is possibly the renewal credits. Okay, thank you for that question. Will they be considered part of the interpretation of Standard 4? Yes, ma'am. And what we wanted to do with these digital learning competencies, we looked at Standard 4, and I will tell you, Bethany, when we first started down this road of trying to craft the competencies, we started out aligning them to the standards, the teacher's professional standards. But what we found out was that we wanted to take these much deeper than what was in the standards and what was in Standard 4. But they will be part of that technology piece that's in Standard 4. And Jeff asked the question, are links impacted by the Google Doc being view only? That's very possible, Jeff. So we'll make sure, I have all of your contact information, so I'll actually send you the link to the slide deck when the webinar is over. Okay. All right. And Bethany says the links worked for her, so I don't know, what's going on the end, but I'll make sure you have a link to the slide deck immediately after the webinar. And again, we thank you so much for joining us today. Please complete the feedback forms. We really want to hear your feedback and your questions as we move forward, so that it helps guide our work. And just know these are still in draft form. They are going to the state board in May for discussion, and then June for passing. So know that's coming up. So we're still in that process of getting feedback. We want to make sure these are, like Kathy said earlier, that they're actionable. And that are reflective of good teaching practices. And Wayne, we'll make sure you get the correct Google link. Okay.
Deborah, I'd like to add to please reach out to any of your regional consultants. We'd all like to hear from you and hear what your thoughts are and gather your feedback.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. And what I might do before I share the slide deck with them, for you guys to, I may go ahead and put the regional consultants' names and contact information on the ending slide so that you have those. Because like I said, Kathy serves the Southwest region, Cynthia the North Central, and she's also the point of contact for the Northeast region at this time, because we had a position that was cut. So Cynthia is kind of helping out with Region 1 as well. So we'll get those names and contact information in there for you so that you can reach out to them. Okay, we'll hang on the line for maybe 2 more minutes to see if there's any further questions or comments. Thank you all so much for the comments and questions that you've asked. And thank you for being with us today. So again, thank you very much. Again, reach out to us with any questions or comments you have, and we look forward to reading your comments on the feedback form. Have a great day.